Three, two. We are live now.
Can I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good morning, dear students. I thought I'm audible for you. Yeah. So, I'm from the Department of Political Science, Assistant Professor Ramya HS. We are conducting boot camp about the quiz session and also the interactive sessions. Okay. So before that, we have to give information about are you thought of right what kind of domain it is, because your overall student community, it is in the camp, it is in the session, how it is the session useful for you. First, I will tell my domain career opportunities for you. Okay, in if you have to take the political science domain in the NEP syllabus, what is the career opportunities you can get it? Okay. So first one, if you are take the course of political science as a multidisciplinary course, okay. So you can get a chance in, obviously you know that in the generally that is IAS and IPS in the UPSC examinations and the KPSC. What do you mean by UPSC? So Union Public Service Commission, right? So under that commission, you can get a chance as a IAS, IPS, IRS, IFS. You can get many more opportunity in that domain. Okay, and then you can become as a political analyst, political researcher, as a legal advisor. So these kind of things, and also the international researcher. So and you can get a job in job opportunity in the NGOs sections, so you can get it into that. And also you can any job you can never get it in that, so you can get it in the SDA jobs and also the FDA, so you can go to for that. So all the competitive exams, if you have to take this, obviously it is helpful for this subject. So let me start regarding about the quiz session, right? Before that, just I will give the information regarding what is political science, why it is useful for you. Just I will give the information. So before I am going the quiz session, okay? So political science, it is based on the, it is a study of the state and the government system. So government system and the state system will provide the every sector's facilities. So what kind of facilities they are giving? So what kind of programs they are planning? So what kind of systems they are leading? So these are all the things we have to get the know information regarding our political science. It will give the theoretical knowledge and also the practical knowledge too, right? So for example, the government system newly arised by the government system, that is the Congress government system, right? So they are giving the lot of what schemes regarding about Gruha Jyoti and also the Gruha Lakshmi. So these kind of all the things you have to get to know through the directive principle of state policy. In the political aspect, in the political science language, we can call it as it is a schemes, right? So we can know these kind of things, and also what kind of yojans it is useful to the beneficiaries for the people, right? So these are all the things we have to getting to know about our domain. So dear students, you have to know, right? In the NEP syllabus, you have got a one option, one subject is there, that is OEC, right? For example, if the BA students can take the OEC in the other streams domain. This is the facility given by the NEP, right? So if you are interested in political science, economics, in the natural science, in the social sciences, you can take any open elective courses in this NEP, newly introduced by the NEP schemes. NEP stands for what? New Education Policy or National Education Policy, right? So, and also they are introduced the AECC courses and also the ACC courses. It is helpful for you as a skill enhancement. So it is enhancing your skills, what kind of talent you have. So that kind of all the streams you can touch it in that. So BA students can take the BBA course and also the BCA courses as a OEC and also the SEC. So it is ACC and also the AECC is a compulsory subject in the all the semesters. So this is a basic, information you have to get it from this. Okay. So ACC stands for what? Ability Compulsory Enhancement Course. Right, ability enhancement compulsory course you have to get in the first semester and also the third semester. At the second semester or the fourth semester, you can have the one compulsory paper. Okay, it is on my political science background domain only. That is about the Constitution of India. So now we have to conduct the quiz program about a constitutional about the respective constitution of India only. Okay, shall we start about the? Just a minute, I will share the screen. Camera on. Camera should be on. Due to technical issues, glitches, you have to wait for a second, guys. ಇದನ್ನ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಆನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಆನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ So this is the quiz sessions for you guys. Who is the Prime Minister of India? You can take it as a the quiz session. There is the 4 option. So these are the questions what I displayed in the screen, right? This is helpful for you in the competitive examinations. For example, in the Constitution of India, in the political science domain, will give the information about a competitive questions like this. Okay. So just I will I will give the examples about the basic things in the Constitution. That is about yes. So the part first of the Constitution will explains about the union. Okay. The part 2 will explains regarding about a citizenship. So basically, we have to know the basic things about the Constitution. So the Constitution itself is derived from in the period of 1950 January 26, right? Before that, we can identify the Constitutional Assembly. We are getting to the Constitution in the period of 1950 January 26, right? So before that, in the original Constitution, we can observe. What do you mean by original Constitution? Original Constitution means when the Constitution came into force in the period of 1950 January 26, on that period of Constitution, we can say as a original Constitution. In the original Constitution, we can see the 395 articles divided into 22 parts and 8 schedules and the 73 amendments, which is in the written documentation, right? So this is the information, it is useful for your competitive examination. So are you curious about to listen how much article it has to be arised now, increased now, right? So now we have to observe the 448 articles divided into 25 parts and 12 schedules and 198 amendments. At present, we can see the date of the Indian Constitution articles. Guys, you have to know regarding the basic things about the constitution as a domain of the political science, right? So the political science will explain the importance of the constitution. We can see how it is to be helpful. First we have to see the features of the Indian constitution. If you have to take it, so obviously you know that our Indian constitution is a written format of a constitution, right? So basically, we have to divide the constitution itself is a two types, that is written and the unwritten. So written constitution, we can give examples as a India, China, of America. So these are all the written constitution. Even it is a democratic kind of nations, right? So come to the point of our Indian constitution, we can consider it as a very biggest or the very lengthiest or the very longest constitution in the India, right? So why we have to call it is the longest and the lengthiest constitution in the India? Wait a minute. I will- So where it is longest, why? Because each and every concept is it is elaborately and comprehensively explained by the Indian Constitution. For that purpose, we can call Indian Constitution is the lengthiest constitution in the India, right? So what it has to be explained means the content of the Indian Constitution will explain regarding about the fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive principle of state policy, local self-government system, corporation system, and as well as other many more things. It has to be explained in the detailed manner. So for that purpose, our Indian constitution, we can call it as a very lengthiest constitution in the whole world, right? Yes. American constitution, we can compare it to. Are you curious about to know about the other constitution, right? So why we have to consider it as the shortest constitution, that is USA? Because each and every states has their own constitution. For that purpose, so USA constitution we have to consider it as a shortest constitution in the whole India. Okay, so come to the point of our Indian constitution, right? So Indian constitution will give provision for the written format, written documentation. It is passed by the parliamentary, what we can call as a 2/3 majority, right? So each and every bills, it has to be finalized with as a act by the signature and the seal of the president. So as if you know the bicameral system of Indian constitution, what do you mean by bicameral? So bicameral means two housing system. We can call it as a bicameral system. So they can ask in the competitive exam, what do you mean by bicameral? It is useful for you. So bi means two. So two cameral system means it is the upper house and the lower house system we have to observe in the parliament, right? So that is the upper house and the lower house system. It has to be contributed in many things in the parliamentary based kind of democratic system. India is Indian constitution. It is allotted basically as a parliamentary form of government. What do you mean by parliamentary form of government? It is nothing but the supremacy or the superpowers or the superior powers given to the parliament. So for that purpose, our democratic system we have to called by as a parliamentary form of democratic system. It has to be parliament. We have to majorly divide it as a two types, that is the upper house and the lower house. Upper house we can call it as a Rajya Sabha, and the lower house we can call it as a Lok Sabha, right? Yes, come to the point of what a preamble. It is a main thing we have to given the example towards to the Indian Constitution. If you are to go to the bookstall, right? So if you want to buy one book, you cannot see the overall books. You have to see what the content it has to be, right? Just you have to buy. You have to see the index. So index will shows the importance of the book, right? In the same manner, if we have to know the importance of the Indian Constitution, we have to approach as a reference section, that is a preamble. Preamble, it is nothing but a content towards to the Constitution, or it is an index, or it is a introduction part of the Constitution, right? So it is very much important because the preamble will says, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved, India constitute into be a democratic, socialistic republic, and also the secular state. We have to be protect our Indian citizens. So this is the text of the preamble we have to identify as a feature of the Indian Constitution, right? Yes. Go to the next point. We have to observe parliamentary form of democracy. Just I before that I explained for you. So Indian Constitution basically it has to be given provision towards to the parliamentary form of democratic system. Parliamentary form of democratic system will explains about a supremacy of the parliament, right? So what kind of supremacy we have to observe? So supremacy of the parliament will explains about a whole. For example, it's a common bill, or it is a general bill, or it is a parliamentary bill, or it is a financial bill. All bills it has to be passed by the lower house of the Lok Sabha. So 2/3 majority, it has to be passed towards to the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha, it has to be verified for the particular bill, or giving the suggestion or the corrections. They have to get back again towards to the Lok Sabha. So Lok Sabha, on the basis of the Lok Sabha 2/3 majority, that will goes to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, and the Speaker of Lok Sabha will have to submit towards to the President, who we have to call it as in the political science word as a nominal executive of the nation, which is President. The President, with the seal and the signature of the President, it has to be as a act. So this process we have to observe towards the how the Parliament has to be strong in our Indian Constitution. How the Constitution will giving provision towards to the Parliament. That will highlighted in the future of the Indian Constitution. Dear students, you have to know about the importance of the Indian Constitution means it has to be given information regarding about it has to be given information about corporation systems, local self bodies too, and directive principle of state policies, and also the fundamental rights and the fundamental duties. So let's go to the points of fundamental rights. So the part third and the article 12 to 35 will giving information regarding about the fundamental rights. So the fundamental rights, it is a basic rights, basic need rights, right? It is which is enforceable by the courts. If you have to get hurted by the other person, we have to secure our individual rights, means we have to approach the fundamental rights, so which is enforced by the judiciary system. So article 12 to 35 will giving information about our fundamental rights. It is basically this word, or this concept, or this perception. It is not it is the original perception of our India. We have borrowed by, or we are inspired or influenced by the USA. USA is the first nation to introduce the word of fundamental rights. Okay, so more information means obviously you know about the 6 rights. So in the original constitution, as if you know, the when the constitution came into force in the period of 1950, on that period of constitution, we have to observe the 7 Bill of Rights. We have to call it Bill fundamental rights as the Bill of Rights, or the list of rights. In the Bill of Rights, we have to observe in the original constitution as a 7 Bill of Rights. So now it is not remained as a 7 Bill of Rights, it is remained as a 6 Bill of Rights. Okay. One, it has to be removed by the Indian Constitution. That right we have to observe it as a right to property right, which is under Article 31. So 31 article, that is right to property, it is not remained as a fundamental rights, it is shifted to the legal right under the basis of 300A. Okay, so now we have to observe the last right, that is about right to freedom, right to equality, right to education, right to religious, and also the fifth right, we have to sixth right, we have to observe it as a right to constitutional remedies. This is very important right we have to observe as a citizen of India. You should know it. It is a basic concept because we have to apply the writs where the issue will arises. Okay. So what kind of writs we have to observe? Through the justifiable concept by the Indian Constitution, that is about the constitutional remedy right. So it is provided in the Article 32 to 35. We have to observe five kind of writs. What do you mean by writs, guys? Writ, it is nothing but a petitions. In the local language, or we can call it in the general languages, it is nothing but a orders. When we have to get a trouble or the making a issue, we have to solve it, we have to use these kind of writs. What is that? The writs, we have to observe it as a five kind of writs or petitions, that is habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, and coarento. These kind of five writs, it is very important thing we have to observe in the daily life. For example, the habeas corpus, it is about writ. It is nothing but a what? It is about we have to protect the individual rights. For that purpose, the Constitution will provide these kind of writs because we have to secure our individual rights by harassing our others, right? Within a 24 hours, the detent should be proved by the nearer court or the judge. So that kind of writ we can call as a habeas corpus. The mandamus, it is nothing but it is purely about a public authority or the public officer. If the public officer or the public authority discharging their duties without their jurisdictions or out of their jurisdictions, on that period the public can issue this order. That kind of order we can call it as a mandamus. Okay. So, and also we come to the part of prohibition. Prohibition, what we have to prohibit? The court. It is purely about the court system. So the lower courts and the upper courts, what we can call the higher courts, they have to discharge their functions, their jurisdictions. They never come to the jurisdictions to the other jurisdictions. Okay. For that purpose, we are using these kind of writ or the petitions that we can call as a what? Prohibition. It has to be prohibited to the other courts. They have to discharge their duties within their jurisdictions. Okay, come to the point of certiorari. What do you mean by certiorari, guys? The transfers of the cases to the other court system. That we have to observe it as a certiorari. And the last one is coarento. It is purely about a manipulation regarding about the job-oriented things. For example, when we have to use this kind of a coarent kind of a writ means when the eligible candidate will not get a job on that period, the eligible candidate can apply this writ because of their non getting the job. So on that period, we can use the coarento system. Okay. So these are the things we have to identify by the fundamental rights. So these are all the information basically given, entitled or enumerated by the Indian Constitution was to the Indian, citizens. We come to the point of fundamental duties, right? Fundamental, it still explains about the basic things, right? No, guys. So fundamental duties it is enumerated or the promoted by the Indian Constitution in the part 4th A, and only one article, that is Article 51A, will explain about fundamental duties. Okay, so fundamental duties, it is the basic duties of the particular citizens. Citizens can enjoy the rights and responsible for the duties. They have to enjoy their duties and also the rights too. With enjoyment, they have to lead their responsibility with the duties. So basically, the concept of the fundamental duty, it is not assigned by the, or it is not mentioned by the whom, that is not Indian. We are inspired by the USSR. What do you mean by USSR? USSR stands for United Nations of Russia, right? So we are inspired by the USSR. In the period of 1976, we have to inculcate it with the recommendation of the Swarna Singh Committee recommendations. We are established the concept of fundamental duties in Indian Constitution. In original Constitution, we never ever identified the concept of fundamental duties. We are adopting the fundamental duties in the period of 1946 due to the recommendation of the Swarna Singh Committee. Okay, and then come to the point of the duties. In the period of 1946, we have to observe the 10 Bill of Duties. Now it is not remained as a 10 Bill of Duty. It has to be increased for the 11. So fundamental rights, it is to be increased to 7 to 6. The fundamental duties to be increased to 10 to 11. So total, are you observed in the textbook of the middle class, your primary educations, the language book will show your fundamental duties, right? Are you observing, right? So in the same thing, the Bill of Duties, we have to observe as a 11 Bill of Duties. So 11th Bill of Duties, it has to be added in the 86th Constitution Amendment Act in the period of 2020. 2002, under Article 86th Constitution Amendment Act, we are added the 11th duty of the particular citizen. That is about every parents bring their children for the education. This is the new duty we have. Only one article, that is Article 51A, and Part 4A will giving information regarding about fundamental duties. Come to the point of the directive principle of state policy. The Part 4 and Article 32 to 51 will explain regarding about the concept of directive principle of state policy. What do you mean by directive? The word itself, it says directive principle of state policy. It is nothing but it will direct to the state. It will direct to the state, and also it will giving information, or it will giving instructions towards to the state. So concept we can call it as a state directive principle of state policy. For example, it is not a compulsion to adopt by the states. It is not a justifiable concept by the judiciary system. It is left to the administration structurization of the particular state. Out of the 29 states, any kind of states regarding about the 12 states are adopted the concept of the directive principle of state policy system, right? The state policy system clear. The concept itself is a clear. It will give directions. For example, in the general language, you can take the example of Karnataka, Annabhagya, Kibhagya, Kshirabhagya, right? Gruhalakshmi as the present. The schemes, it is nothing but a directive. It has to be direct to the beneficiaries towards to the people to create a welfare state in the overall constitution. What do you mean by welfare state? Is the maximum happiness of the maximum people we have to identify in the in the present constitutional preamble says. So our India has to become as a socialistic with welfare state. So in the conclusion part, so the each and every political science will giving our it is to be inculcated in your mind towards to take the competitive examination, because each and every articles it is explained elaborately in the questionnaire manner. For that purpose, basic things I have to be explained in the political science domain. So come to the point of international politics, it is as to they can ask what kind of international courts, what is the headquarters, these kind of all the question it has to be covered in the competitive examinations too. When they come to the part of the theory, the public administration, who is the father of the public administration, what kind of theories it has to be, allied theory, and also the game theory, system theory, and also we have to the game theories. These kind of examinations. Guys, it is very important subject towards to bring youths towards to the competitive exams. You have to become as a IPS service oriented civil services and also a foreign affairs and also a foreign forest services too. So for on, if you have anybody have to focus regarding about that kind of these political science, it is the benefits of the domain of the political science. Thank you so much for your patience listening, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, guys. So, if you guys can just put it in the chat, I can see later. Can you guys just give me an idea of what you understand by psychology? Right? Like when you hear the term, what is it that comes to your mind first? Yeah. So, psychology, how we interact with each other, how our has a lot. Before concept is psychology. So when we take apart various issues that are coming, depression, anxiety, or workplace issues, and that can be done through various format, which can first one can be about clinical. Here in clinical, we usually work in hospital setups, right? And it is basically dealing with all sort of disorders. Majorly deals with about relationship and other such things which might not come under the domain of clinical because it's not something which you need to be hospitalized to, but which is something which is bothering you in a day-to-day interactions of your life. And coming to HR, which might courses like MBA or even so yes, it basically deals with in your industrial setup, like how to manage human resource, because human resource is also an important point of any organization, as important as the physical product that you put out. So how to manage this human resource, how to engage people in the setup, and how can you make sure that the people that you who are working for your company, who you are dealing with in a day-to-day life, how to make sure that they are getting what they want and they are. And it also in HR, there is also inclusion of appraisals and placements and training and so on. These are all helping in the organization to develop their own domain and to make sure that they do not lag in any aspect of the life. And these are some major career opportunities. But apart from that, nowadays there are a lot of new innovative ways in which you can use psychology, and also through which you can make sure that you are getting something for yourself and also you're contributing to the societies. Like there are a lot of NGOs which try to help people who have issues or who are going through certain life situations, like people who have a were target of human trafficking, right? To rehabilitate them, to make sure that they are able to connect back to the society and to help them deal with the trauma or deal with whatever issues that they face during those times. That is one way which NGOs can help. But apart from that, NGOs also cater to orphans and people who are abandoned by their families because of various issues. And there are also NGOs which cater to other psychological needs, like people who have disorders or who are dealing with certain developmental issues, like what we used to call as mental retardation, but currently we call it as intellectual disability. And here, all of these might sound like something which is not the domain of psychology, but in all of them, psychology plays an important role because we are dealing with human beings. Whenever we humans are present, you can take it as granted that certain situation or certain aspects of psychology will be in place, right? So if this is okay, we can just I'll just share my screen briefly, and I'll just go through. Um, yeah. So the topic that I had prepared for today was psych busters, because there are a lot of psychological myths that we have in that I hear in day to day life, and I'm pretty sure you guys might also have heard and might have taken it for fact. because all of us assume it to be so. Because people say that okay, there is some research which supports this. There is a famous saying. So it is usually believed to be true. But let's just see how much of it is true and how much of it is not so much. But yeah, before going to Psychbusters, I just thought we'll just have certain games, so that activities to make sure that you guys are active, right? And yes, this is a quote that I like a lot, and it just talks about how our capacity, right? The brain is wider than the sky. It means that our mental capacity is so much so that you might understand this. You might feel that this might be not true, but let's just take an example that it is human mind which was able to grow from an ape, right? From that state to today we are other of our thought evolution to our education system, because it is education is basically trying to cater to your mind, to your brain, right? So let's widen it better, and let's also sort of pick up the things that may not be true, that is sort of harming in the sky. This beautiful sky is sort of littered with certain issues or certain rubbish things. Let's just try to pick some of them and widen our thoughts. Yeah. So this is one question that I had, and yeah, just yeah. So yeah, a murderer is condemned to death, and he has to choose between three rooms. And the first is full of raging fires. Second is full of assassins with loaded guns. Third is full of lions, and which has not eaten in 3 years. Which room would you think is the safest for the murderer to go? We are not saying the murderer is the right person, so he has to be alive. But just for the fun sake, which room would you choose if you were in his place? Yeah, let's quickly again answer. Yeah. If you have guessed, then that's great. If not, then the correct answer would be the third room. Because if a lion has not eaten in 3 years, then does it make sense for it to live? So it will be just an empty room, right? And that would be the safer one. Yes, I have another one riddle, and that is, if there are four sheep and two dogs, one herdsman, how many feet are there in this group? Yeah, you can just type the number of legs that, or like number of feet that are present in this group. Okay. So I'm assuming you have done it, and yeah, that would be the answer would be two, because only one herdsman is there, right? Others are not human beings. We are not dealing with humans here. It's animals, and animals we won't call them feet. We call them hoofs or paw. So this it is just something which we sort of get confused because of the way it is presented, but the riddle itself is to clear your thought process, to make sure that you are thinking and you are analyzing the whatever is in front of you in such a way that you are not making any errors, right? And I just want you guys to type on your screen in the chat box what is the first letter of your name. For example, my name is Rashmi. So my first letter of my name is R, right? And an adjective that defines you. For me, it would be, I would say rare, I guess. I don't know. So, like this, first letter of your name and an adjective which starts from the same letter and which defines you, or which sort of describes you. Please make sure to write that. And if you want to, you can write an explanation on why you think that is a good combination. If that is not possible, then that's fine. Just your first letter of your name and an adjective that defines you. or that describes you the best using the same letter. Try to type as fast as you can, but make sure that you are doing it. I'll just give you 1 more minute for you to do it, so that and you can do it later also. If you feel that it's not coming to you right now, you can take your time to think, time to sort of analyze or to contemplate on it, but make sure to put it in the chat box. Okay. So these activities were just so that we can know each other, and also to sort of clarify certain thought process, or clarify our mind, and be prepared to burst some facts. I mean, burst some myths that are present in our day-to-day life. Right. And the first one is so just put the number. There are three choices. If you put number 1, that means that you are agreeing with the statement, whichever comes next, and you are saying that yes, this is a true statement. It's a fact. If you are putting 2, which it means that you are not agreeing with the statement. You are saying that no, this is a fiction or this is a false statement. And if you believe it to be somewhat true or somewhat not true, or if you are not sure, you can put 3, and you can also sort of explain what you thought of that for either of these 3 options. So yeah, 1 is fact, true, 2 is false, not true, or fiction, 3 is 50-50. Some parts might have some truth in it, and some parts may not be so truthful as such. Right? Take your time to put your choice across and choose wisely. You can take your time, and also make sure that you're thinking through some of the statements, because some of them might be tricky, right? So please give your attention and listen carefully and make a wise choice. And it's also okay if you put wrong option, because we are just trying to understand the concept, right? It's not, we are not having any quiz, or we are not, I'm not evaluating you guys. So it's fine if you make any wrong assumption also, but make sure to put your choice across. Yeah. The first one is something I'm not sure if you guys had in your mind, but this is something I have heard a lot. A psychologist is someone who can read others' mind. Have you ever heard of this? And if so, do you agree with it, or do you think that this is not a true statement? If it's true, or if you think this is a fact, then please type 1 in the chat box. If you think this is not true or this is fiction, please type 2. If you think that there is some truth in the statement, but it may not be completely true, then type 3. Right? So 1 for fact, 2 for fiction, 3 for 50-50. I'm repeating it again so that you are not confused. Make sure that you put the option that you think is the correct one, and also put first question, so that I know for which question you are answering, right? So 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, right? So does anyone think psychologists can read mind, or have you heard this and do you agree with it? Anything? Please type it across and let me know. Yeah? And by psychologists, I mean even students. I'm pretty sure if any one of you have had psychology in your previous education, and if you were in contact with any other people around you, they might have asked, right? You are studying psychology, so can you read my mind now? Or can you say what am I thinking about? Can you make guess about my favorite things? Or variations of the same question, variations of the same myth. Okay. So as I accidentally let it out, this is not true. Please, if anyone is interested in psychology and think that okay, I may not be able to do this because I can't read minds, then that's not a true statement at all, because no one can read anyone's mind. Our mind is something which is or our thought process is something which is clearly inside us, right? It is inner thought process. It is something which we do it without any external manipulation, not manipulation, but any external manifestation initially. Only when you sort of convert your thoughts into words, only when you speak about your thoughts, or only when you act on it, can anyone know about it. But no one can read your mind. And if anyone says that I'm a psychologist and I'll read your mind, please be aware that they might be pulling your leg, they might be teasing you, or they might be trying to scam you. So, yes, this is not true at all, and it is the most common misconception that almost everyone will come across if you have heard the term, or everyone will ask you. But this is not true at all, because what we as psychologists, we do not read minds. What we do is we analyze things. What we do is we sort of observe the behavior, what is going on, observe your body language, observe facial expressions, and come to a conclusion based on these facts. So this is not something that, okay, I read your mind, so I know you are thinking this. No, they might say that, okay, I believe you might be thinking about this because I heard you speaking about this, right? I heard you talking about your favorite food, so I'm assuming you're hungry, right? So I'm not reading your mind. I'm not, guessing or based on just reading mind. I'm guessing based on the facts that are presented to me. And the facts can be presented in form of behavior, in the form of body language, in the form of your words that you speaking itself, or it can be based on my previous experience. Will learn the next time. And in counseling also, because psychology is questions, and based on the answers that you and the way you give the answer, uh, pretty sure, I'm 100% sure that you friends and predicting behavior have more information, I might change my mind and I might make some alterations, or I can improve on, or I can change the way I assess something. Right? So all of these are based on information, and psychology is a science. So there is no mind reading or no mystical or magical element to it. It is based on purely science and facts. Right? And if you guys had put any other option, that's fine. Let's just this question to anyone, just keep it in mind that no one can read anyone's mind, right? The next one is you can learn information in your dreams. This is a new area, and which is called sleep assist. Got some messages on it. You might have got some emails, or you might have just seen it in Instagram or any other social medias. Because in Instagram specifically, there are a lot of things that are psychology related that is coming up. Nations. So one of them is this one. So you can learn in your sleep, and sleep assisted learning is very useful. It is also called hypnopedia. So do you guys think, if you think this is not true, it's a fiction, then put 2.2. If you think there might be certain things you can learn, there might not be certain things you may not learn, or there is some fact to it, then once you can do that. If no, then you can just put the number in the chat box. Yeah? I'll give you a minute. Please make sure that you are putting whatever you think. That is important to know that how many people are thinking about it. Right? If if you are not sure about the answer, whatever comes to your mind, whatever is coming to you at this moment, please think it. And so the question is, you can learn information in your dream. That and you can learn new information like language or like mathematics when you are sleeping. Yeah, where and when one had optimism, okay, now I can learn even in my dreams, so I don't have to waste time in waking up and studying for exams. I can just put a no, sorry to burst your bubble. That is not true. This is purely fiction. You cannot learn in your dreams. Yes, your sleep helps you to process whatever you have learned, to solidify your memory, to solidify your learning, your learned material. But that has to be done before, when you are wakeful sleep. If you have studied something and in your sleep, it can get consolidated. But you cannot learn new information in your dreams. Even though Amazon has a lot of products which says that, if you put this CD on and you go to sleep, you can learn this is that there were some experiments which were done in which when some person was sleeping, right, they were introduced to certain external stimuli. External stimuli means something which is outside to you. External stimuli means anything that is, evoking a response. So things like sprinkling water, right? When a person was dreaming, they were sprinkled with water. And that person reported that he dreamt of roof leaking. So what these scientists said that was that the information that is happening that happened after this conclusion was that, okay, if you can integrate this information, that it means that you can also learn. But that is not true, because this is purely physical in nature. Exposing of water is external stimuli which is done to your physical sensations, and it is also very small in sense that it is not profound, it's not complicated, it's simple. And not everyone reported back the same, right? Not everyone integrated this information. Only 10% of the population on whom this experiment was done reported so. So there is no, new information that can be learned, or new complicated information. Specifically, if we talk about language acquisition or learning new language, or learning mathematics, mathematical reasoning, these are not simple tasks. It needs you to pay attention. Even even if you do not go to such higher cognitions, even simple things as perception is required for you to learn new information which are of complicated nature, and this cannot happen in your dreams. What can happen in your sleep is integration of already learned information. However, for that you should have learned it before, and it's not like all the information that you have learned will get integrated. You might forget half of the things that you have learned the day before. I'm pretty sure you, during exams, most of us will have faced this. Like whatever you learn is, it is limited in a certain way. It needs more elaborative way of learning for you to remember properly on a long term basis, right? So if you guys had chosen one, then congrats. If not, then I hope you don't fall to any scams from even reputed and very well sourced sites, right? So if anyone comes to you and tries to sell you a CD to help you learn in your wisely, yeah. The next there was some issue. Because there is this famous saying, is better to have more people, or if you think one, that is 3.1. If you think it is good to have more people, then put 3.2. If you think, if you're not sure, or if you think there is some truth to it, some false, 3, 3.3, right? Okay, I hope. Yes, even though there is that famous saying which says that strength in numbers, it is not actually true. So, if you met with an emergency, accident, or anything like that, having more people is not going to help you, because there is this bias, or there is this tendency of us human beings to sort of leave the responsibility to others. If we see there are 20 people, then I'll assume that 19 other people are there to take care of this issue. Why should I go front? But if it was only 2 people, then I would be like, okay, this is 50-50 chance. It's either the other person who will help, or if it's me. So for me, the responsibility is 50%, as opposed to in the option of 20, where my percentage of responsibility is drastically reduced, right? So there was. So yes, in the experiment, what they found was that if you have more people, then the likelihood of you getting help is very less. And if anyone is interested to know a bit more about this phenomenon, it is called bystander effect. You can search it up. You can look into it, and just see how much do you agree with the research that went on, and you can sort of compare it with your own life experience. You might have, it's not just accident, but in any emergency situation, just look back into your life and see how different the response was when the number of people involved were high or low. Yeah. And the fourth myth is lie detectors in like vanity and all. And if the person is saying true or not. Like, if you think detectors are not always accurate, true, that is, lie detectors are always put. And if you think there is some truth but not completely true, then put total truth. Okay. Okay. So I hope you guys are putting. I'll just repeat it once again. Lie detectors is not accurate is a fact, 4.1. It's not an accurate is a false, that is, it is accurate, 4.2. And you're not sure, 4.3. Right? Okay. So actually, this is a fact. Lie detectors are not accurate, because it is, even though it takes a lot of scientific measures. Usually what happens in lie detectors is they count your BP level, your blood pressure level, your heart rate, which is sort of connected with your BP, and skin conductivity, that is how much are you sweating, because these are all some physiological response or physical responses that are seen when people are anxious or when they are nervous. And the logic of lie detectors is, when people are lying, they are usually anxious or they feel guilty. So that makes them to respond very physically to the to that aspect. However, what research says is that it's not always true. There are people who can lie very easily. because we lie in day-to-day life. And on an average, a person will lie at least 3 times a day. And this is common. This is not something like only people who are criminals or who are psychopaths who lie so much. It is day-to-day, activity which we lie. So we are so used to it that we don't blink an eye. That is another one famous thing, right? You might have seen some FBI, people talking about this. If the people are shifting eyes, they are not meeting you eye to eye, then it means that they are not saying truth. But that's not the case because there are a lot of psychological conditions like people who are shy, they don't meet your eyes. People who are having autism, they don't meet your eye because this is not because they are guilty. It is because they are not able to. They don't have the confidence to talk while looking into eye. So a lot of assumptions that lie detectors make are not always applicable to everyone. So no, and it is also seen that psychopaths who are the ones who lie can do it so seamlessly that you cannot at all measure it with lie detectors, right? So this is one true fact that came in this statement. Yes, the next one is opposite attracts. I'm not sure how many of you have heard this, but there is, you see it in movies, you see it in famous popular media that people who have opposite tendencies who are attracted to each other. So opposite attracts. Usually, this is seen in romantic attraction, but it also applies to friendships or any other kind of relationships. There is this famous saying: if you agree with it, put 5.1. If you do not agree with it, put 4.5.2. If you are not sure, 4.3. Or if you think that there is some truth to this, statement, 5.3. Yeah. I hope you guys are answering. But the fact of matter is opposite do not attract. Usually people who have opposite tendencies do not gel together initially, but after a period of time, it usually leads to conflict. So, life, it can be life partner or it can be friendship. We tend to seek people with whom we share some similarities. It may not be like 100% similar person, but it usually is. We are looking for certain similarities between us and the people with whom we want to have any kind of relation. Again, it can be your friendship, it can be your romantic relationship or any other platonic relationship. You can just take a look into your own friendships. How many people in your friend group share similar attributes or similar uh, you know qualities, and how many of you have completely opposite qualities, so much so that you guys can never agree on the same thing, right? Just take a look into it and see, take a decision for yourself and how much of it is what's true. Yeah. Okay. So the next one is if you are organized. Have you ever heard of this? If you are very organized or if you want things to be clean, right? You don't want to make a mess of things. You are very, oriented towards keeping things clean and keeping things in an orderly fashion. Then people are like, why are you acting like an OC? Why do you have OCD? Or, variation of the same statement. Yeah. So, do you think that is true? Like, if people are organized, orderly, and give more importance to cleanliness, then they have OCD. If you think it's true, then please put one, option one. If you think it's not true, then please put option two. If you think there is some truth to it, then please put option three. And this is sixth question. So 6.1, 6.2, or 6.3. Yeah. And yeah, the answer is it's not a fact, right? This is not a fact. This is a myth, and there is no sort of some semblance of truth to it. Also, it is completely false because OCD is a diagnosable clinical disorder. If you want to clean your stuff, great. If you want to keep it in an orderly or organized fashion, go ahead. Never worry that you have any disorder just because you're doing some things to make sure that your space is in the way that you want, right? OCD comes up only when you have anxiety attached to it and intrusive thoughts. You might not, understand these terminologies, but I'll try to simplify it. In OCD, what happens is you have any kind of thought. It's always present and it is making you anxious. It is making you worry. It is making you so nervous that you cannot do any other thing at all. So sort of handicapped by this thought that you have to do something to release that anxiety, and that action is not something related to the thought at all. So if I have the intrusive thought that my parents are getting will get hurt, right, I might do something like cleaning my hands. So it's not related at all. But if so, that is the disorder part of it. But if you, here we are talking about organizing your stuff, you don't want your room to be messed up. That's fine. That's not any indication of any disorder. And if anyone says to you, you can just go to them and say that's not the case, right? The next seventh question is about brain dominance. Have you guys ever heard of this? You might have come across a lot of online tests. Like, are you left brain person or are you right brain person? If you guys have ever heard of it, put yes in the box. If you have ever took any quiz regarding the same, put yes in the chat box. Or if you have asked the same question to others, right? Are you left brained or a right brained person? Yeah. Okay. And yes. And do you think people are left brained and right brained? We can divide people in such categories. If you think that's the case, put 7.1. If you do not believe in it, then put 7.2. And at the end, if you do not think at all, I mean, if you are not sure at all, then put 7.3. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, there is some truth to it. Okay, this is not completely false, but it's also not true. Our brain, the entire brain works together. It's not like only left brain is working now and right brain is sleeping. Yes, our brain is divided into two hemispheres, and yes, certain parts or certain actions are more proficiently done by one part of the brain and as opposed to other. For example, you might have heard this before also. Left brain, I mean, people who are left-handed, their right brain is dominant, and vice to it. But again, this is not completely true because it just means that one part of the brain is a small, quicker, or it can process things just by a millimeter cost, right? So the difference is not so much. And another thing is about specificity, right? That is, our left brain is usually involved in analytical aspect, that is, mathematical problems and spatial ability and so on. And right brain is usually tending towards creativity or intuitive thoughts. There is certain truth to it, but the thing is, our brains, they do not work separately. They combine together. They integrate the information. One brain gives certain information, another part of the brain gives certain information, which is integrated, combined together to give you an output which seems so coherent, right? We don't just say that, okay, now I'm thinking about math, now I'm thinking about language. No, our brain does all the work, and the output which we get is sort of cohesive out product, and we tend to give an answer which is not so discriminatory, right? In that in sense that we won't be saying that, okay, now I analyzed the mathematical part and I came up with this, but when I analyzed the language part, I came up with this. No, our brain does the work and gives you a complete answer. Yeah. And the next part, next question is about our memory, right? How many of you guys record events as we experience? You can also base it on your own experience. Back, or even Can you accurately record that scaling system? If you think this is yeah. Capable of recording events in the everything that's happening around us. So we need to process it. We need to put it in our right. It just takes things that are in my own thought process. Our memory is never information. For example, but it might not be the case. Towards the end of it, so here in our day-to-day life, there are aspects of certain right. But if right, just in psychology, uh, yeah.